Okay, and the audio is working, probably. Cool. Hello, and welcome once again to the four-dimensional stuff. 4.5, 4.5 dimensional stuff. How far did we get last time? Let's have a quick peek. Oh yeah, we can trace lines between arbitrary rooms, which doesn't seem super complicated, but it gets really weird when you do stuff, for example, like this, where I'm drawing stuff on the room that I'm in from this room. Oh, hello! Are we there yet? We're getting closer, but you know, game dev is a long journey. So look at that. And what other weirdness is if I do that and that, then I should have drawn on the top and the bottom. Oh, and in between rooms is very complicated. There's a lot of faff, but in general this is all good. And what I want to do now is get some 3D models in here. And oh yeah, I meant to look up a source of some free 3D models, but I didn't. I think I have a picnic table model kicking about somewhere. Just kidding, it's a huge project. It is. Oh, the one other thing that now works that didn't before is cuboids. So if I do like some different numbers here and build, then we get a hypercuboid where the rooms are all slightly different sizes and shapes. And once again, I'll try and find one that's a funny shape. Oh, this is a funny shape. They're all cuboids, none of them are particularly funny. But this is like tall and thin. If we go along here, and then this way, oh, it's still tall and thin. If I go down like this, oh, now it's tall. So the holonomy is a lot more obvious with hypercuboids. And so far all the like entity wrapping, so as you move from room to room it seamlessly does that, and the rendering the rooms is all positioned correctly. You can't see any seams, so that's all good. That seems to work. I want to do the cuboids, but I'm not huge on, I don't know, if it's an opportunity to implement something that's nice, and maybe I'll use it in the game, maybe I won't. But my options are open. Okay, let's begin. But also, as always, I'm taking song requests. Could one very long object span and touch itself? Yes, in theory. I don't think I'll make the physics engine support self-collision, because that's really, really bad for a lot of physics engine algorithms work with convex objects. So convex objects cannot crash in particularly difficult ways. In fact, you can tell if two convex objects are not colliding because you can draw a plane in between them in some way. There's specific parameters that you can use to find the plane. Concave objects do not have a nice property like that, so self-colliding is another thing. Objects should not ideally self-collide, but it would be kind of cool to be able to, I don't know, have something that goes like all the way around and like balances on itself somehow. But for now, yeah, you don't perceive the corners. So in theory, yeah, if there was an object that was you know, like if I build up here, this building thing is substantive. These rooms are 32 units, so if I just spam this, so you know, an object that is that long will loop through. Now, if it was like a straight line that was slightly longer and you tilted it down, it could crash into itself, but I have no idea how to write a physics engine that like resolves self-collision due to non-Euclidean topology. That doesn't sound like a fun exercise at all. Just sounds horrendous. It would be cool, but maybe for the sequel. Okay, what were we gonna do? Oh, I should bring up my Trello board, which I haven't looked at for a while. Whoa, I guess that's done. Then we'll work on some rendering stuff. Okay, whatever, who cares? In reality, there's a bend in that object. Yeah, the 3D analogy would be if you have a cube. Whoa, what the? If you have a cube that's well drawn and not. Okay, I can't promise well drawn. And then you could have some object in the 2D space. Let's draw it like this, with a slight angle up. It would go around the back, around this side, and it would sort of come out here or something. If the angle is slight enough, you just fit it in like that. And then you turn the object so that this end of it moves that way and this end moves that way, and it would collide with itself. And yes, the object is bent on the third dimension, but from a 2D object's perspective, it can't tell there's a bend in the logic of this kind of manifold. So what I'm definitely going to do is not that, because that's not gonna, it's not gonna happen. I could probably make an algorithm to work it out. Yeah, it's like Flatland, but there's shortcuts, which is kind of, well, yeah, if Flatland was a piece of paper and you folded it around in a circle or whatever, you get a cylinder, but on the Flatland it would just seem like you'd created a loop in reality. And yeah, no, Ouroboros, which is interesting because the universe might actually be like that in terms of space itself. Finite but unbounded. Right, I was gonna do some changes to the 3D code to make all of the static geometry go into one massive buffer. And first thing I was gonna do is make a little class for holding meshes, and it's not going to be very smart, but I'm going to be really proud of it because it's going to try its best. Pragma once. You can add shape. You're not distracting me. This is a stream. If I wanted to not have chat, I would just not stream. Or I would record myself offline. You can add shapes, a cylinder plus a sphere, as in, well, there's operations you can do. You mean like unions and all that? Yeah, you can do different things. Right, what was I going to do? I was going to do something horrendous. I was going to make it a template class. And it's not even going to be class because I don't even like classes very much. It's going to be a mesh. Yeah. It's going to have It's going to have a vertex. And it's going to have a vector of vertices. Excellent. Oh, this is so far so good. And it's going to have indexes. A plane plus a cylinder is oh yeah, like yeah, where you make every point on one have the properties of the point of the other, and it adds a dimension in. Or something. Yeah, that. You can do a lot of very complex stuff. Let's do 16-bit. uint 16 is in C standard int. Okay, I'm going to get a vector of index called indices. That's nice. A bit of symmetric pluralization. Oh, what's this? I'm also going to have another vector of indices called mirror indices. Oh, this is where it gets this is where it gets a faff, right? I really should use my R value references here, but I'm not going to. I'm going to make an add triangle function, I'm just going to put a couple helper things in here. Oh, so yeah, add a triangle, and first it's going to find out how many vertices you have. That's going to be the result of where it gets added, and then push back the vertex, turn the result, because that's probably going to be useful. You could just add them straight in there if you don't care though. Like, this is just a struct, it's all public. This is not high class stuff. Void. I should really, that's not a triangle, that's a vertex. Add vertex. This is a triangle. I was getting ahead of myself. Okay, we've got 3 vertices from adding them, and then we're going to add a triangle. So indices, push back A, B, C. Whoops. Okay, cool. Mirror indices, push back A, C, B. The shapes, well, this is just for like random chairs or tables or whatever other static meshes I want to put in the rooms. Which is going to be a bunch of vertices and a bunch of indexes for index element index rendering. And these ones are for rendering them inside out, because if you see a mirror image, you're going to flip the world inside out, and then all the winding will be wrong. So you need to flip. Now, well, kind of, that sounds like a thing, but in reality you can just render the world inside out by flipping the whole winding order of what you're rendering by using like GL something. There's a OpenGL command to flip whether you're considering triangles clockwise or counterclockwise. But I'm going to be mixing, I'm going to get things like in a mirror image that then get pulled out of the mirror, or objects that go into mirrors and thus are a mirror image relative to everything else. So things will need to be rendered in mirrored scenes that are unmirrored, or in unmirrored scenes that are mirrored. So I can't just get by with flipping the winding all over the time, all over the place. Or can I? What is the cost of GL front face? That's the command. Hi, Marcos. You know, maybe I will be rendering this mesh by mesh anyway. So I won't... Okay. Let's use the principle called Yagni. You ain't gonna need it. So maybe we ain't gonna need this. So let's not implement it. If we do need it, we'll implement it at a time. Okay, that makes that real simple. And as long as I stick to this, then I can add that in later, and that'll be cool. Okay, that's just a rubbish mesh. Lovely. So I want to get to this room rendering thing, which does all of this mesh building and then also rendering. And this is bad for a few reasons, which I've stated many times. One is that, I'll get rid of that debugger stuff. One is that each render room class has like all of the shader stuff, buffers, vertex arrays, its own image. There's no sharing of anything between the different rooms. That's silly because you know what I could do? I could have a little fun. Let's render this way further out. I'm not going to do all the crazy like rendering off into weird orientations for a while because that stuff is super complex. But let's just render a whole bunch more extra rooms and see. Oh, and this isn't even that many rooms. So this is actually kind of nice now. There's no anti-aliasing, so it looks bad. But you can see a lot further. Obviously you can't see down any like awkward angles. So the reason that's not turned on is because this black area here and this black area here would see different rooms in the same space in different orientations. Make a singleton to share variables. Global variables are the best. There's some things that global variables are the best for. For example, you want to do some keyboard input with the keyboard. You want to use a keyboard. In case you don't know what a keyboard is. Yeah, that's fine with singleton. No one plugs in two keyboards. Although now that I've said that, that does sound awesome. But I don't know if even many operating systems support multiple keyboards. Sound is another one. Not many people have multiple sound cards with like different stuff going out, you know, whatever. Yeah, no, well, people get very antsy about global variables. Which is, it's right to not use them. Often they're either used because people don't know quite how to do something and structure it, but making it global always makes it possible because you can just wire stuff however you like. You've got two keyboards. But can it be detected independently? Like, could you have a game on one computer where, or I guess you just do it online, but one computer with two keyboards and like 10 mice and they're all doing independent things on the same machine? That could be cool. You need some elite hardware hackers to work that out. That's the kind of stuff you see at Game Developer Conference. They have this Alt Control Play GDC thing that's got some real wacky stuff. Okay, so all of this is garbage. The bit here that builds up this stuff, well, it's also garbage, but if we believe in ourselves, maybe it could be slightly less garbage. I guess a really easy first step would be I just wrote this mesh thing, so we could build it up with a mesh. Also, I haven't used element array buffers. Yeah, most you usually get two keyboards, they both work the same, but I don't know if the operating system can tell. Like, does caps lock sync between, if you press caps lock on one, is that caps lock on the other? Or do they have independent caps lock? Oh. Gosh, I might need to go back to school here, because I must have done these element arrays a very long I can't remember. 10 years ago? Were they even around then? I don't know. I didn't even know the things for it. Oh gosh, back to school. Element array. What's it called? Element index. Index array. Index buffers. Element array buffer. Is that it? Then what do you do with it? You just, I guess, fill it with some stuff, right? Okay. I have no idea what's going to happen. This is exciting and fresh, so let's see. Let's just try and get this into the mesh thing, because then I can also write a thing that loads, for example, .obj files into the mesh, and then we would have two different meshes, one for the room, one for the obj, and then we can make a thing that comes up with draw commands for all of them. So instead of a vector of vertex data, I'm going to have a mesh of vertex data. I'm going to call it mesh. Oh, that's cute. Yep. So so there's actually only I need to make some type defs for that, but that's fine. There's only 4 vertices here, so we can make some Mondo savings by not putting the dupes in. So that's one. That's one. Oh, and then look at this. The next 2 are dupes, and that's also one. Gosh. A, B, C. C, B, D. Okay, cool. And the rest of them can also get done, but I will do that with some copy-paste skills in a bit. Size of vertex times. Oh, we're just going to be the size of... No, it's going to be size of vertex times mesh.vertices.size mesh.vertices.data. Okay. Okay, and then let's do the element array buffer, and I've done this before. This isn't like, this isn't the first time. Yeah, I really needed a couple of def type things there. Can I do that on the actual instance? No, it wants... There, okay. Mesh indices size. I have no idea if that's going to be happy. M vertices, M indices. I'm making a mesh with a vertex index array. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. So I made a class that just takes vertices and takes index numbers to build up triangles to make both of those things. And now I'm attempting to make that work. Draw arrays? Draw element arrays? No, that's not it. What is it? It's GL draw. What's that website? Docs.gl. This is a real good website. It's got a dark theme. Look at this. This is made by a guy called George, who's a top guy. So if I search for GL draw, okay, draw arrays. Draw buffer. Draw elements. I have no idea which one I'm looking for. Draw elements. This is useful. So I'm drawing triangles. Of course I'm drawing triangles. What else would you ever draw? Yeah, let's draw elements. Okay, I was close. So we're going to draw triangles. Count. Number of elements to be rendered. I guess that's indices. Type. They are GL unsigned short. Indices. Specifies an offset of the first index in the array in the data store currently bound to the GL element array buffer target. Offset of the first index in the array. Okay, so that should just be 0, right? Okay, let's see if this works. I'm not holding my breath. Well, I can't see anything. I think, have a little helper function that will report back errors. Although I don't think it's making any errors. It seems happy. But I'm very dubious that I got any of that correct. That seemed... Oops! Let's do a little example. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really reading this. That's giving null. Should it be a pointer? I mean, 0 should be the same, right? I just give null pointer. No. Okay. This is a classic OpenGL situation. I've done something. It's not even giving me an error, but nothing's happening. Nothing at all is happening. That's kind of annoying. It's fine. So just check. GL unsigned is short, and I did set that the mesh defaulted to use a uint16, which is a short. And I guess I could debug this to see what it's actually doing. Might be an idea, because sometimes it's good to have some vague clue of what's going on. Or would you look at that? I'm not even setting the right thing. Vertices 3000, indices 4000. But each vertex is quite a lot of bytes and each index is very few. So it might help if I set m indices to something. For example, the number of indices now. Why am I making the mesh in GLSL and not C++? It is in C++. It's just OpenGL. Okay. GL out of memory. Wow, that's not what I expected. But the docs will come in handy. Are they out of memory? Why would it be out of memory? That seems unrealistic. Maybe it's giving a certain error initially. I need to God, it's giving me many frames. Okay. No, it just straight up says out of memory. I was just checking that in case the first time it comes through, it's like, oh, yeah, you did something wrong. And then after that, it's like out of memory. Well, it may be time. It may be time to just say, what's the example? GL out of memory is unusual. I wonder if it's this. That's what someone on Stack Overflow suggests maybe is the problem. Out of memory. What? Like, I need to find out. It shouldn't be out of memory because it's only got a few thousand of each thing. But I think it's more likely I've given it a buffer that's the wrong size, and it's sad about that. Okay, here's an example from the Kronos. I don't know, because I checked the mesh in the debugger, it had about 4,000 odd indices and about 3,000 triangles. 3,000 vertices and it makes 4 vertices and 6 indices. So yeah, it was about 2 to 3 ratio. So it seems like it's making the mesh fine. I mean, that was a very simple piece of code that I adapted. But like I said, I haven't done element arrays in a long time, a very long time, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing exactly. But let's look at an example and just see. Oh, you might like, I don't know if you've seen my t-shirt there. Wow. Very silly. You can probably also see my lunch on that t-shirt. That's something I'm saving for later. So we've got a vertex. Cool. And then they're making 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 0, 1, 2. They're filling in some values. That's cool. Generating a buffer, the binding array buffer, and they're giving it some vertices. Cool. Now they're making indices. The generating buffer, binding it to element array, giving it those things as data. Okay. Wait, how old is this example? I have a theory that it's to do with this being bound there. Let's just try moving this piece of code down here. See if that does anything. No, that didn't help at all. Additional nonsense. Oh, you know what would actually also help is if I... Man, my copy-paste skills are absolutely dire. Oh, there we go. That was some very poor copy-pasting, which made for minutes of captivating footage for everyone who watches this at a later date and says, oh, he pasted that wrong, and then, yeah, you can fast forward to this point where I noticed that. So I was just sticking all the elements straight into the same buffer as vertices. I didn't bind the right buffer. Oh well. So presumably that element buffer can go there. That doesn't matter. Yeah, that doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Well, I got pretty close. In fact, it seems that rather than being inexperienced so much with OpenGL, I was just inexperienced at how to make code appear. Yeah, it's all good. Unfortunately, I only put one axis, so everything looks pretty weird. It looks pretty cool though. Oh, very nice. Now if I remember the time, it's about 41 minutes. I need to go for an hour 20, and then when I upload it to YouTube, I'll get something from in here as the thumbnail. Very thoughtful. Okay, but aside from extreme vanity, what I also need to do is not have extreme vanity and concentrate more on making progress. So the whole point of this is, yikes, to adapt this into a tool, a little piece of code that builds a mesh from a room. So the room has some voxels or whatever, and it says, here's the mesh for that. And then I can also load meshes for other stuff, and then get all of the meshes for everything, every room and all the objects and static geometry in the current level, put it into one giant buffer, and then when it comes to rendering the room, there'll be two stages. First it will, let's see if I can copy paste while I talk. First it will go through each room before the render pass starts and figure out what's in the room, and thus what commands it needs to issue to render the room correctly, because it's going to be rendering this room in a lot of different origin matrices with a lot of different rendering options. So it needs to just work out what it's got to do in what sequence, and then another function should be called that will just spit out all those rendering commands straight away. I'll say bind stack geometry, do this with these matrices, then bind for if there's like some dynamic models, for example, there's a player model and there's a mirror or a looping scenario where you can see yourself. Maybe needs to bind that in and let's render that. I want to combine as much geometry as possible because the internet says it's a really good idea, but more specifically because there's going to be a lot of rooms rendered, and fewer state changes will enable better performance. When I say a lot of rooms rendered, I mean thousands, ideally. I think the test project you can easily get a few thousand. So the first step to that is being able to use the same mesh for, oh gosh, I'm not an experienced multi-curses. Same mesh for just the room and other stuff. Also, this is not quite how I want to build the room. So what's bad, let's see, how does that look? Yeah, back to normal. So to explain what's bad about this room mesh is pretty easy. All I need to do is go here and uncomment this line of code, and we can have a quick look at the mesh that it's rendering. There's only 8 rooms, but you can see them thousands of times. Here, I'll boot up the engine test and show you. So as you can see, although these rooms appear very simple, they have way too many triangles. Well, not really, they don't have many triangles, but this is spamming a lot of triangles basically. And whilst triangles are fine, it's probably easier to render a few hundred triangles rather than a few thousand, especially considering if I do like this and create a bunch of extra geometry. So if this room's got a bunch of stuff in it, a bunch of steps or whatever, you're going to start getting like tens of thousands of triangles, when that could be thousands of triangles. Am I going to do level of detail? Maybe. Possibly every model will be so bad that level of detail won't matter. It's not going to be a huge, super high detail game. But perhaps I think the bottlenecks are not going to be triangles. So just to compare, just to explain why I say you can see thousands of rooms. If I, oh, it's going to crash. No, it didn't crash. Yikes, the mouse moves the opposite way. So, why can you see thousands of rooms? If I open up enough walls, actually you don't even need to open that many. There's 32 walls in between rooms, and I'm trying to be nice and symmetric here. And as you open them up, ooh, okay, whatever, I screwed it up. Ugh, such a failure. As you open them up, you get more angles by which you can see other rooms. Yeah. So you can see the mirror for reference. I can already see the mirror at least 3 times here. If I turn around, it's actually more like... So here I can see the mirror 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 times. Yeah, it's like mirrors facing mirrors, which also can happen. So this is just on a horizontal plane. You can now see the mirror a large number of times. And as I open up the stuff, I don't know if you can hear that, but the rain is coming on pretty heavy. That's very nice. Okay, so how many times can you see the mirror here? And also, all these mirrors have reflections, and some of them are reflected in other mirrors and stuff. Now, it's still handling this okay. This isn't hitting particularly a bottleneck. It's running very, very smoothly on my machine, which doesn't have a hugely powerful graphics card. It could be better. I think it's dipping below 60, but it's still like playably smooth. But what it could have is more draw distance on certain axes, and it could be a little speedier. So yeah, this is what I mean by there could be 1,000 rooms. If you want me to start opening up the ceilings as well, then you can get this on all 3 axes. So you look up like this, you're just going to see rooms all the way out. And then it really starts choking because it runs out of stencil buffer bit depth. Generally, you're only ever going to get an 8-bit stencil buffer. I don't think you can ask for like 16-bit ones. I think you can get them sometimes, but I'm not sure every card is happy about that. So yeah, although the mirrors make this example quite contrived, if there was like, you know, 30 pieces of furniture in each room, which is a lot, but you know, you want chairs, potted plants, stuff like that. Then yeah, you could be looking at thousands and thousands and thousands of draw calls. It's not difficult to get. I wonder if I could make it like whoops, well that's broken. That's why I love this test thing. It's just not quite as robust as the one I've been making live. So if I bring this in by half a bit, this might be quite a nice level, like an open plan office that just goes on forever, right? you know, there's an open plan office, there's a flickering light bulb. You have to get a chaise lounge to fit in the right place, but you have to push it around until you find the location. But what I mean by that is, if I have a chaise lounge, I always use that as an example because it's a piece of furniture that has obvious chirality. So it's really, so there's a chaise lounge. But if you remember that I'm facing directly towards it, if I go along this way a bit, then maybe go over this way. Oh, now I've turned it around 90 degrees. What if I go around here? Then I've turned it around another 90 degrees. You see, so there could be a puzzle with an open plan office or just stuff like that. You know, I could take the mick of a lot of these office games like Stanley Parable or Superliminal or something. Could be a laugh. Anyway, so that might go some way. It didn't actually choke at any point, did it? No, it barfs out tons of errors here if it has trouble with like dropping frames or whatever. Hopefully that goes some way to explaining why I'm being really paranoid about, even though there's only 8 rooms, why am I trying to batch them all together so that I can just fire out a minimal, like change one buffer, issue a couple draw calls, and then say, yeah, that's that room done. And often I have plans for what is going to be in the game. I never really thought about doing an open plan office, but when I saw all those rooms opened, it kind of made me... But I don't know, making an office, people wouldn't be able to relate to that anymore. They'd say, hey, it's an office. I remember offices. No, it does remind me a little bit of. There's this, I don't know if it's like a creepypasta or whatever. What's it called? Yeah, here we go. This is Know Your Meme. The back rooms, it's this creepypasta about if you get out of bounds in real life, you end up in some endless void of segmented 70s style office rooms with no furniture. Very creepy. Not really, but it's a pretty cool idea. And there's other things like liminal spaces. It reminded me of an open plan office. It would be nice to an elevator with floors. You see, the thing with the elevator is that is exactly how Portal did the going between rooms. So that thing with the big open plan office, that was just 6 rooms. There was 1 room above and 1 room below that were not opened, but everything else was. So you could even, for example, just to demonstrate why a lot of this is pretty cool. I cannot describe how unpleasant this one is to manipulate compared to the new one. I've got the mouse and sensitivity all wrong. Yeah, just basically mouse sensitivity. So to open it up, so here's 1 room. Oh, I didn't quite do that right. And it's the 4 rooms around it are open. Now I'm going to open the 4 walls between them. Okay, so now we've got the central room and a loop around it. And if we go into that loop, obviously that looks like an infinite corridor with the central room in the middle. And now what I'm going to do is break the 4 walls into the room opposite the central room. And then the whole thing will look like an infinite plane. Okay, so this is that's what we had a minute ago. Okay, but what are some things you can do that are interesting in this space? Well, if I dig a tunnel down here, okay, this room is actually completely open, but let's just imagine that it's just a tunnel. When we come out here, where do we end up? Well, we end up right back in the office space, but now everything's upside down. So there's the tunnel I jumped down, and there's where I've come out. Okay. Now we're on the ceiling. And we could indeed do another tunnel that goes back to the floor. Or we could do a vent that goes along. And then... Ooh, like... Yeah! I'm trying to make it small because... You know, I'll just be real accurate from the ground. Like a vent. Like in Die Hard. That goes here. Then what happens when we go out of this vent? Now we come out. Now we're falling through the office. And that could be just disguised pretty well. You know, it could just look like some vent shafts and you come... You come out and now you're falling forever. And that's pretty cool. And now that you're falling, you should be able to land here. Back in that tunnel that I made. And then come back out. Oh, now you're falling the opposite way. Alright, so if there was an exit just like... I don't know, like hanging from the ceiling one way round, you could hide some tunnels. And I don't know, hiding things isn't really a good puzzle, but you can see how even unusual forms like this can have interesting interesting concepts. Where's my little Die Hard vent? Here it is. Can't hear him back on the... I hear a banging sound outside, that's creepy. It's probably just someone trying to break in and end it all. I've noticed that I did not quite line that up properly. I don't care. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Ha! How did you do gravity though? Everything has its own reference frame. So this mirror is actually falling towards the direction I'm looking. This mirror is falling in the same direction that I'm falling in this reference frame. So there we go, that's like a tunnel. Whee! Boom, I'm upside down. and it's mathematically consistent, and that gives me a false sense of superiority. Okay, that's enough messing about. Yes. Oops. Right. I'm going to do a little bit more, and then I'm going to say that's too much. So really, I want to have something like a... This is hard to think about. There's a bunch of different ways of doing this. I'm not sure what's best. Yeah, you could have like a key hanging from the ceiling on a string. But I mean, I don't want to just be obtusely hiding little tunnels that change your whole enemy in unexpected ways. I mean, it probably will a little bit because it's kind of funny. But yeah, if there's stairs up, and then you can like crawl around the edge and jump down into a different reference frame. There's a lot of games that do this on like a 3D surface where you're 2D, and they can be kind of okay, but I think 4D where you're 3D is just going to be slightly cooler. Plus I have some ideas for mechanics that would make it a lot more awesome. So here we have a function from here to here. This will build a mesh for a room. So we really just want to get a bunch of meshes of the vertices, being currently this, but probably should be something slightly different. What's in the rendering engine? I don't think there's much in here right now. So the rendering engine, so I've left this fairly blank, but in the old test version of this, there was so much random stuff in the rendering code. Had all this like clip planes set up, color mask stenciling, doing stuff, rendering different passes, establishing portals, changing the winding order, running queries, referencing different like dereferencing portals, and then it eventually just renders the room. But it didn't do it in a very elaborate way. In fact, it did not. Also, it could render mirrors with a whole bunch of hacks. It did not it does not batch anything, so every time it rendered a room, it looked at everything in that room. It was like, hey, let's query what's in the room. It should do that once. It's going to render a frame. Every time it draws a room, it's going to have the same content because it's instantly drawing it all. Because the speed of light is infinite. And it needs to look at query what's in the room and build a list of what it needs to do. So I guess what I need to think about, do I have like a text file? no, I'll just open, is when render room, or whatever it is, gets called, it needs to, for each type of thing to render, so e.g. static, geometry, I'm talking static geometry like models that do not change, dynamic geometry like for example rigged models with bones or whatever, which I'm going to try to not use, but we'll probably have to a little bit because people like things to move. Particle effects maybe, you know, whatever. I've also got ideas about rendering multiple rooms in batches, but that's really gonna make the rendering convoluted. So for each type of thing, I want to start the program, bind up all the stuff, find all the crap associated with it, AG textures, uniforms, issue draw calls. Okay. So, but I don't want to work out what all this is. I want to, at the start of the frame, go to each room and say, I have droids or something. Yeah, I'm tempted to make the player just like a stick figure or something. Or like really badly animated. Just, but I will probably do I'll do a player at some point because there's mirrors and you're going to see yourself. Maybe we'll do like a PlayStation 1 style player model where they just look really nasty. 2D? It could be 2D. That is a really likable idea. The one problem with 2D is I could show you the exact problem with 2D. So in a game like Doom, they made the sprites have 8 different angles, whether they're facing you, facing away, either side, or the diagonals, and it swaps between them depending on your angle. It looks pretty good, and you could probably even do more than that without too much hassle. It's dodgy. The problem here is worse than that, because you can see things not just from the 4 cardinal directions as well as up and down, but you can see them at really weird angles, and that sucks. Well, no, it's awesome, but it makes it complicated and a pain. So 2D, I do like it. So if I come up, I don't know, here or something, if I pull out a bit of geometry here, so this is like a person, I can see them side on, or, which is fine, that could just be the regular side, but then you can see them from like the top, or like here, or this angle, or this angle. And I don't know if 2D would... I don't want it to... See, I can see this blue room in a lot of different ways right now. And Well, one thing is it shouldn't have to do a different sprite for every room in every angle. I mean, it could, but that's now... What I want it to do is it's like render the room and it's going to go, bleh, there's the room. 2D sprite people in 3D worlds are kind of cute and they can look really cool stylistically. And there is probably a 30% chance I will eventually do that. Suggesting they're made of planes at different angles, so it'll be viewable in 3D without a problem. Yeah, you can do stuff like that. But that's still going to be probably slightly different to static geometry, like just rendering all the furniture and carpets and paintings on the wall or potted plants or lampshades or whatever else is going to be like one pass of the room, and then the player or any particle effects or whatever is going to be a separate pass. So that's what I wanted to do. Which kind of reveals, in some sense, what it should have, which is it should have a list that's like program, texture crap, draw call. Yeah, it should have something like that. And it goes to the room and generates that for everything in the room. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, these two are the same as this one, so they can all go together. And that can be like draw calls 1, 4, and 5. Or maybe like just 1 and 4 have the same texture crap, so they can get conglomerated. And then this has got different texture crap, so that's 5. And then this is a different program. Maybe these two programs are the same. So yeah, you know, it's 2 and 3 can also maybe be the same thing. And it'll just generate lists like that. And then when it comes to actually render it, it'll just be like, okay, bang, switch on that program, bind these things, draw these draw calls. Same program, keep it good. Bind something else, draw that. Change program, bind whatever, draw that, you know, whatever. Something like that where it's completely batched and has very little in the way of imagination. Like, I want the room rendering to be very straightforward because then it can do lots of them. And also, it's probably how you should do it. Because then you can put lots and lots of geometry. And then it makes it really easy to sort these. So you don't actually need to worry about them. You just generate everything that you've got. You say, oh, we're going to render the room, we're going to render this, we're going to render that, we're going to render the next thing. You put them in a big buffer at the start frame and then sort them there and say, okay, this is the order, because you want all the ones that use the same shader together, then all the ones that use the same texture together, and so on. Yeah, you want an engine. Well, that's what engines do, because that's how you do it. But I'm doing some stuff that is not there. Like, I'm not going to put any transparency because just, no, I'm not. But I'm not really a big engine builder, I don't know. But, yeah. Ideally, I want it so that all of these, if it's all static geometry, will become just one big bind and call thing, and then it can do a bunch of rooms in sequence without having to change shader. I think that will make it faster, probably. Yeah, this is an engine. It has to be, because all of this crazy rendering stuff is... I don't know if could you do this in Unity or Unreal? Probably. and it probably wouldn't be much fun, but it's not particularly painless doing it this way either. So I just want to make something cool. Plus, I can copy paste bits from this to other things. I mean, it says engine. It says it right on the screen, right there. Look at that. I know it's an engine. No, I know. Okay. So I guess I should commit that. But yeah, Godot. You might be able to do it very well in Godot as well. So I feel like it's rather a silly change, but it is a change that makes sense. Bish bash bosh. Bang, there we go. Yeah. It's all good. Yeah, I just need to work out what the structure's gonna be. I couldn't. Maybe you. I struggle with spheres. Yeah, man, spheres are annoying. I struggle with making 3D models. But that's fine. Oh, that's definitely something I need to do before I stream next time, is make sure I have some public domain or readily available 3D models, because I can't really jump into integrating 3D meshes into the scene if I don't actually have any. I mean, I guess I have the mirror frame. I believe that's a public domain. I do have a picnic table. Again, I believe public domain. But for now, it's late. I didn't really do much today. I just implemented this very simple structure and adapted it. But I got something to work. And I thought a little bit. Thinking on stream is high quality viewing. I'll Blender you something. What do you want? Oh. Well, not totally sure. I do really want to put furniture in regular objects people are familiar with, because when I have all these scenes where the gravity is quite crazy, it doesn't feel, it just feels like a big empty sort of cube matrix without anything fancy going on. But I think that will change if I put like carpets down, which is like a carpet texture, furniture, paintings and stuff on the walls, light fittings on the ceilings and stuff, because then when you see it in different angles, one of those chairs, what they're called chairs, or chaise lounge. Yeah, I think putting some real world stuff in there will prime people's understanding of how gravity is, and it'll make it look more twisty and weird when you're walking around on the ceiling with the lights hanging upwards and the like chairs above you and stuff, and beds and blenders and toasters. You don't need to, don't bother blendering me anything right now. I can barely even render the rooms correctly. Chaise lounge, chaise. Yeah, I don't know what it means. Yeah, I can't. I'm away from that. Well, there's more banging outside, so I'm probably going to get blown up by a maniac. Very spooky, or it'll be like a fox attacking my bins. Okay. I think that's probably something I need to go. I'm going to have a really clear idea of what I'm going to do tomorrow, and then I'm going to start implementing it and seeing what happens. Yeah, well, that's me. It's good chatting with you. Fecundacious. I will see you later. Bye.